This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
Following is a paid program. The content is provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership are not responsible for the content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. And now, the host of the Team Martek Hour, Joe Martek.
Joe Martek. You know, Greg, we were talking about being Catholic and how we were raised, and my girlfriend was also raised Catholic. You know, I will tell you got to give them credit. It's you still do the sign of the cross every once in a while, whether you like it or not. I mean, it's just, it's just some things are just burned into you. And it's like Alan being raised Jewish. The Jews taught the Catholics how to brainwash the kids. Hebrew school got you indoctrinated. Did it not work?
Yes, it did.
And then Catholic school does the same thing. We went to Catholic school. Did we learn anything? Yeah. Fear of nuns. That was the one thing. And the second thing is, if you go to a Jesuit school, you will learn because you have no choice. Because if you don't learn, we hurt you. I mean, it was... Remember back when we were in
the Board of Education.
Yeah, the board. Remember then there was no ADD, no ADHD. There was no D's allowed. You know, that was it. Did I tell you when I went to high school, when you're a senior, we had a smoking lounge.
What?
In high school.
No.
Honestly. U of D High School in Detroit had a smoking lounge for seniors. So I guess they figured if you made it all the way to being a senior, you're allowed to die sooner, you know, because that was it. Yeah. I think things have changed a little bit, you think?
Yeah, you think?
No. 340-1590, 340-1590. Back in 2004, Dan Warren, independent insurance agent. Now, Dan's got respiratory problems, so he's laying around the house goofing off now. He says he's got enough stuff to keep him busy, but I will tell you, after a couple weeks, can you imagine being housebound for 2 whole weeks? Alan, have you tried that?
It's gonna be a lot longer for people that are vulnerable because of the fact that, according to the rules, the people that are 60 and older, they're not even going to be allowed out after phase 1 is done.
So none of us are allowed out.
So,
huh?
So after phase 2, you'll be able to go and do essentials and some small group type things. It won't be till phase 3 is actually done, and so I'm figuring that we may be in the house for a long, long time, because by the time phase 3 gets done, it's almost time for the new flu season to start.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, and what I think the real telling thing yesterday for me was I was watching, I think it was Bloomberg, where the Japanese Olympic Committee is now saying 2022 because they may not be ready next August. Now, we're talking a year from August.
Right.
So
right.
If all of a sudden, whoa, that's real telling.
Well, here comes, listen, what happened to all this positive publicity about vaccine 1 or 2, a cure? You know, because remember last week, or just seemed like a few days ago, they were injecting blood from other people that already had it.
And that's starting to work. But we don't have a vaccine for AIDS, for God's sakes, and that was in the 80s.
Yeah. But they
We
do have
cocktails, but that they
keep you alive.
They keep you alive, yeah.
Well, you know, if you get the coronavirus, though, because it's a virus, it runs a term, right? And then it's over with. Have they done, I mean, I'm having a hard time following everything, but they still don't know if you can catch it again once you get it. It seems, with all of the technology that's out there, I would have thought we'd be a little further along, and especially with the guy we got running this country having a tiny little ego, and he doesn't get his feelings hurt. that he would just jump up and down and be banging heads now to get this thing under control.
By the way, you know that none of the television networks are covering his the big ones.
Are covering
Fox is, but
what his speeches anymore?
Yep. His briefings will no longer be on any major network. Now they will be on their streaming services, but they will not be on the main network.
It's going to be interesting, isn't it? It's going to be. Listen, to think that the main networks, you got to be kidding me when I have a hard time. You mean MSNBC and ABC and CBS, they don't like Trump? Can you believe that? 340-1590, 340-1590. Then, not only did Dan Warren and I start doing the radio shows, Greg Fasula, attorney, we haven't heard from Greg either, So he's probably sheltered at home, worried about what's going on.
He's working for Joe Biden.
Oh, you know what?
Haven't seen him either.
Haven't seen him either. Right? We all started doing the radio shows back in 2004, and the whole premise was pretty simple. We could answer questions for people that might call in, because each had a different area of expertise. And to put it mildly, we've taken calls from thousands and thousands of people over the years, and we added Ms. Victoria Lloyd, Remax of Stewart, the hardest working realtor alive. I will tell you something, and we all live through this. We call up, quote, a professional who doesn't call us back. We talk to a professional who says, I will call you back, and they don't. And you get a little frustrated at times with you say that word professional when you expect a person to wear the label and to act professionally. But somehow or other, between the gum and the lip, things seem to fall apart. But not with Victoria Lloyd. She's the hardest working, most dependable, most credible. If she says she's going to call you at 3 a.m, don't go to bed, because that's the way she is. She will do everything she ever says she's going to do. Which leads me to Mike Paulus, mortgage broker, and what Mike's been able to. It's one of the things that I've never understood why people want to walk in the door to a bank or an institution like that rather than going through a broker. Now, I guess people think if you have a broker, it might cost more. Is that the reason why?
No,
yeah. I would. Yeah.
You would think that?
Well,
I would think that.
that's one reason, but I think the American public over the years was programmed that banks are safe.
Well, and maybe that's...
And our mom and dads did that. I mean,
that's the truth.
That
is the truth.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right. So what happens is, if the way the mortgage business works, I don't care if you walk into a bank or if you deal with a broker, it is so tightly regulated today that it's very, very hard for anybody to gouge anybody, which I have seen in the past. And I mean, literally, I've seen people get gouged terribly. But that's pretty much a thing of the past. Now, the difference between Mike as a broker and, say, walking into the bank very often will have a person which will take an application which may not know much about the business or what's going on, and then it goes to a committee, and then it goes to research, and that might take 2 or 3 weeks to come back and say yes, no, or maybe. Whereas Mike, in 15 minutes, will let you know where you stand, because with your permission, he'll run a credit report while he's on the phone with you. You tell him what your job is, your income, what your debts are, and he'll run the equation, income to debt, and say, yes, you qualify for a mortgage, or no, you probably won't. And if you don't, he'll say, here's what you need to do to cure your problem. Like I've seen him literally say, hey, listen, you've got...
The bank won't do that. They'll just send you a letter.
They just send you a letter.
You're toast.
Right? Yeah. Well, Mike will say on the phone, says, hey, look at, okay, fine, on your credit report, you've got 6 credit cards. If you pay off 2 of the 6, we'll increase your credit score by 20 to 30 points. Just that simple, just that fast, too. So, and that 20 to 30 points could make the difference of 0.5% on interest rate or getting turned down and approved. So it's a interesting phenomenon, because back, Greg, when you and I were new in life and Alan new in business, they didn't have computers and all that stuff. They'd call up a bank and get a reference and say, hey, Charlie, do you know Al? Yeah. What do you think, Al? Is he a good risk? I mean, that was back in the day when those things happened. But today, everybody's a number. It's all in the computer, so there's just nothing you can't hide.
Let me check my Rolodex, right?
Isn't that a word? Rolodex? Can you believe it?
There's one industry that doesn't exist anymore.
You still have yours someplace? I still have.
Yeah, I still have mine at home.
I have
my old one. Yeah.
I hate to throw it away. I'll tell you. Now, probably most of those people are gone by now, but I still
Should
like
be in the Smithsonian by now.
My favorite one was I saw a cartoon in the paper 6 months or a year ago about two teenage kids talking to each other, and one says to the other, says, somebody ought to invent a telephone with a wire attached to the wall so we can find it.
Yeah.
Technology, what it's done to people.
There was that video on Facebook that was classic, where these two teenage kids are trying to make a call. Well, they have no idea what this thing is. It's a regular wall phone, and it was like they're sitting there punching these numbers and stuff.
Hey, listen, wait till they had a
hysterical.
rotary phone. There's, there are still some of those alive.
Little Princess phones.
Yeah.
I
found a Princess phone at my girlfriend's house the other day, and I says, hey, don't throw that away. You see, because you never know.
We still have one hanging on the wall at our WPSL transmitter site.
Is it wired?
Actually, it's wired into the phone-in system. Yeah.
Neat.
It's our engineer ripped it apart and just said, "Okay, we'll just hang it off the side here. It works fine."
Remember what was the original cell phone? That great big thing, and I guess
the brick.
The brick.
Oh yeah.
So I've been told they still work if you've got one.
Oh, I'll bet they work great now.
Yeah.
If you could just get that one computer chip that would go from whatever it was back then, maybe 2G or 1G, and update it to 5G. Yeah.
You'd end up walking a little bit slanted after carrying that thing around because it's so heavy.
Man, that was heavy. Yeah, I had that in the San Francisco earthquake.
Yeah,
that was my cell phone during the San Francisco earthquake.
Wow.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah.
340-1590, 340-1590, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, Alan Love, retired prosecuting attorney from Wisconsin, became our special guest member because Alan can impart certain expertise because being a retired attorney doesn't make him too slow. Alan, is that fair?
That's fair, and I will impart some interesting expertise. And even though I question them sometimes, I have to give credit to the New York Times. They had an article in the paper a couple of days ago going state by state, county by county, showing the number of corona cases per 100,000 population and the number of deaths per 100,000 population. And in St. Lucie County, the number of cases per 100,000 people was 97 with 5 deaths. And in Martin County, it was 115 people with 4 deaths.
So the numbers are almost identical, basically, you're saying.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is look at our populations. Like St. Lucie County is around 370,000,
right,
and only have 97 cases per 100,000.
Yeah.
And we're all shut down, wearing masks.
Yeah, but you look better with a mask on.
Well, I look better with anything on,
340-1590, 340-1590.
You did have a neat Star Wars mask when you tried to rob that Seacoast Bank in Stewart, but that's all right.
Yeah. Back. What was the gang that used to hold up the bank regularly?
Oh yeah. Well, so how are you going to know?
Yeah.
Now,
who's holding who?
Who's holding up anything?
Anything. 340-1590, 340-1590.
Blast from the past.
Blast from the past. Oh, my Lord. Dan Warren, you're still alive. And you're on the radio. We think.
Joseph, how are you doing?
All right, man. How you feeling?
I feel good. I mean, I'm just sort of on house arrest here because of, some
your respiratory
health
aggravations,
that I've suffered through in the past. I don't want to get out there and maybe, get sick. But
well, you have another problem. If you did go out,
a little squirrely.
Yeah, if you did go out and didn't get sick, your wife would beat you bloody because you're not supposed to go out. Yeah, I mean,
listen,
she keeps you.
She's doing.
She keeps you alive.
Well, Nancy's doing the yeoman's job as far as doing all the stuff that I would normally be doing. She's trying to get it done. So am I. She's a real trooper.
And you've got a great staff at your office anyway, so you're blessed.
Well,
man.
yeah, and unfortunately for us, the office is so big that we sort of are well over 6 feet apart from each other.
Right.
The only thing we're doing a little bit differently that we haven't done before is we're trying to do most everything by DocuSign and paying by credit cards or routing and checking numbers. We don't have any outsiders coming into the office, and we're still probably 85% efficient for all the transactions coming down almost instantly. So Dan, I'm happy with what we're able to do.
How many of your people are actually working from the house?
None.
None? Really? Wow.
Well, except Dan.
Well, except Dan.
Yeah. Except for me.
Yeah. Wow.
Because, our office is over 4,000 square feet, and we only have, 7 people. So we got plenty of space.
Well, good morning, Dan.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you, Alan?
I'm fine. Dan, it's better to be 6 feet apart than 6 feet under, right?
Well, absolutely.
We don't know for sure.
Well, maybe with this virus. Say, Dan, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
How are the insurance companies reacting to this being called a national emergency and a pandemic? Do they have an escape clause on certain policies?
Well, that's a vague and ambiguous question.
Well, that's what attorneys normally ask. So,
Listen, you got to pretend this is a deposition, Dan. They get to ask anything any way they want.
Escape clause. Here's the only thing that I have seen and been involved with, and I'm not quite sure of the answer. And it's loss of income and extra expense clauses on many of the commercial policies. All right. There has been an industry-wide rejection of those claims.
Right. Yeah, I heard that
They're
yesterday.
They're saying, hey, it's not in the policy language for us to pick up a pandemic or a virus like this. It's not a covered peril. There has to be a cause and effect. All right. So let's say we had a hurricane or a fire or something. Well, that's specifically in the policy. There's the cause. You lost money because you had a hurricane. They're going to pick that up. But I'm not sure what's going to happen, because I can tell you that after 9/11, the industry said, "Hey, we don't pay for terrorism.
Yeah.
It's not part of your policy." And over time, and probably lots of litigation, terrorism became a covered peril for that particular claim. And then the industry said, since we did not anticipate having to ever pay for a terrorist claim, from now on, if you want terrorism, you must sign a form that says you want it.
Okay, say you buy the terrorism waiver, or you've got
the coverage.
The coverage, then are you covered?
Yeah.
For terrorism, yes.
But this is terrorism, isn't it?
It hasn't been declared. It hasn't been declared terrorism. It's just a virus that escaped from a lab.
Now, if you talk to a few people, they'll say this is terror. There are the conspiracy theorists, which quite a few people are, and I hate to say you lump them together, that China did this thing on purpose, and there's quite a few people believe in that, Dan.
If at some point in time that became a fact and not a rumor or a theory, then you would probably see terrorism cover that.
Yeah. Interesting.
But I will tell you, here in the great state of Florida, very, very few people buy terrorism.
Yeah.
You lived in New York City, or L.A., or Boston.
Yeah,
you might see it to be something that people bought. I only have 2 customers who have terrorism, and everybody who doesn't buy it signs off that they don't want it.
There you go.
So it's not like they can say, well, I thought I had it. Well, no, it's like uninsured motorists.
Yep.
State of Florida says if you don't sign off, you get it. And when you get the bill, you go, I don't want it. Well, then you got to sign off.
Dan, is the pandemic affecting health or hospitalization policies at all?
I would think not. It's not like you can. We used to joke about buying the Obamacare in the ambulance on the way there. But you could only buy it. You could only buy it during open enrollment.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not like you can buy it anytime you want. Now there are certain things that, let's say, you lose your job, or certain major changes within your life that would open up the open enrollment period to you for a small window.
Right.
But if you don't have it going into, if you don't have health insurance and you get this COVID-19, I'm not sure what they're going to do. I know a lot of hospitals and I've never experienced this, but my understanding is you walk in and they're supposed to take care of you.
Yeah.
Well, what I want to know is, what about businesses that, insure their employees that, are not on Medicare, and, you
provide health insurance, right?
Provide health insurance if there's really no business now.
Well,
what happens?
Guess what? That's what the government's supposed to be bailing out these companies so they can pay these people and these benefits. So I understand. Dan,
in theory, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
In theory, is the operative word.
That's right. They're saying, hey, listen, don't fire Bill over here, even though there's nothing for him to do. We're going to send you a check, and you can use that check to pay Bill his normal salary. And if you agree to do that, we're going to sort of wipe out your note.
Yeah.
That's my understanding. You can only use this money for payroll, rent, or mortgage if you own the building.
Yeah. Legitimate business expenses, right? Yeah.
Right, but if you use it to buy a new grill and refrigeration system, you owe them the money.
Yep.
Now, their interest rate's not that bad.
Like 1%, right? Isn't that what they say?
Yeah, I mean, I thought about getting that, signing up for that loan, but the reality is I don't really need it. Let somebody else who really needs it get it.
Yeah, I talked to an accountant in my building, and I said, hey, do I qualify for that? And he goes, no. And I said, well, gee, thanks. Do I get an explanation? He says, you want a long explanation? You're going to pay me, because I'm not going to sit here and keep wasting time, Joe. You don't qualify. Gee, thank you. Yeah, now I know. All right.
Now you don't get it.
That's it.
But I mean, there are a lot of restaurants. I mean, that I have tried to use their pickup and delivery services and things. I'm trying to do the right thing, but I know there are a lot of people out there who are hurting. But now let me throw something else at you that I have heard, and I don't know how much truth there is in it. But let's suppose you got laid off or furloughed. Now you're getting state unemployment.
Right.
Is it not true that the federal government is also paying $600 a week for these people, in addition to what you get from the state?
Listen, it's going to be an interesting thing when this whole thing shakes out, if there's money to be paid back or whatever. Because the accounting, can you imagine the accounting on this thing, what a nightmare it's going to be. But the key thing is, it looks as, did you get your $1,200, Alan?
Not yet.
No, I didn't get mine either. You get yours, Greg? $1,200?
Nope.
No? But I do know one person that did. Pastor Dave on CNO got his.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Dan,
you got mine.
Yeah.
Dan, one other thing. In regard to auto insurance policies, there is no grace period. If your policy is up on April 30th, you've got to pay your premium, right?
Well, yes, you're supposed to pay your premium, just like you're supposed to pay your rent and everything else. I know there's some carriers that are trying to work with their policyholders on a case-by-case basis. I would always encourage a client to before they just ignored it, in other words, they just ignored the situation, that they contact their agent and have the agent contact the company and see if they can make a partial payment or something.
Yeah, yeah.
They may listen. There's an old saying in my business: if you don't ask, it's always no.
Yeah, boy. Isn't that the kind of the rule of life, isn't it?
Well, always. If you don't ask, the answer is no. So,
isn't it?
And then there's the other theory is it's better to ask forgiveness than
permission.
For permission. but in this case, I would say it's better to ask for permission and say, hey, listen, I'm out of work.
Yep.
And I pay you X dollars. When I get back to work, I'll catch you up.
Yep.
They may say yes. They may say no.
Or they may say...
I know that many companies are sending either money back or credit towards future payments because they're not experiencing the losses because people are not driving as much now. I think that's still up in the air. I don't think it's actually started, but they're getting good PR out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think in the not too distant future, it'll become a reality, and that will help a lot of people.
Hey, Dan, good hearing from you, my man. I'm glad you're staying healthy and everything is looking.
Hey, I'm doing the best I can. Like I said, Nancy's taking good care of me, so I'll hopefully be able to get to the show soon.
Thank you, my man.
Y'all take care.
We miss you. Thanks, Dan. Bye.
Yeah, be careful, Dan. Okay. Bye-bye.
I got kicked off the sandbar 2 weeks ago. I was out in the boat, going to spend the night, anchored out, which I've done for 30 years. Sheriff came out and said, you got to leave. And it was 7 o'clock at night, 7:30. And I said, why? Because there's a mandate that came down. I said, when? Last night, midnight. You can't be here. And I said, well, let me go in the morning because I hate to drive the boat at night because, I've got to go back. And he said, no, you got to go now. And I said, well, what happens if I don't go now? He says, Joe, we arrest you and throw you in jail. And I said, well, that's kind of an incentive because I know every one of these guys, but it was just the thing. Then the next week they changed the rule. So now you can go out and spend the night on the boat, but you can't go on the dirt. You can't walk on the dirt, the sandbar. But you can get in the water up to your waist that close to the sandbar. So this last weekend...
So you can walk in the water.
You can walk in the water.
Oh, in the water.
Yeah, you can't walk on the water.
Oh, okay. I got you.
But
only one person can do that.
Well, you did hear about, when President Trump went over to the Mediterranean to meet with the Pope. You did hear that one, right?
No, I didn't.
No.
Well, the Pope came out on the yacht, and all of a sudden his yarmulke, pronounce it for me right.
Yarmulke.
His yarmulke flew off into the water, and everybody's all worried. And Trump says, "Hey, no problem, I'll go get it." So he goes out, walks out, picks it up, comes back, puts it back on the Pope's head. Next day, MSNBC, CBS, NBC all reported Trump can't swim. Does that kind of flow with what we started off with on the show this morning about them not reporting? Anyway, 340-1590, 340-1590.
Well, not only is this the most oxymoronic show on WPSL, it's now the most insidious tongue-wagging show on WPSL, led by the inimitable Joe Martek.
That's a lot of four-syllable words there.
340-1590, 340-1590.
And none of our audience understood a word he said.
But I like it. I like it.
I give your audience a lot of credit. I'm sure they did.
You know what's interesting? If you ever know attorneys, they like using four-syllable words because they get paid by the letter. They don't get paid by the word. They get paid by the letter. The more space on a page they can take, the more they can charge. Is that fair, Alan?
Yes.
Yes. 340-1590, 340-1590. So, hey, listen, we're looking for some of our faithful callers that haven't called yet. Mike, you haven't called us, and Russ, you haven't called us. Somebody call up and pick on us. Alan, what this quote, pandemic, we're looking at, people are getting stir crazy all over. Was it 20 states are doing demonstrations now, and Georgia's supposed to open up? When they say open up, Do you know what that means? What, Alan? Do you know, or Greg? Do you know what they're talking about?
They have a list of businesses that have been closed that will be open.
They say that hairdressers can. Now you think about anybody
Nail
who might
salons.
be a high risk. As
Well,
far as
they're talking about. I don't understand. They had this one video on NBC of a hair salon and nail salon, and apparently they're building like they have at Publix, those plastic shields.
Yeah.
Where the person is doing the nails is on one side, and then the other person
Stick your
is
foot
on
through
the other.
This window.
It's
Now
bizarre.
that makes
bizarre
sense.
looking.
Put your hand through the window.
I don't know how you're going to do that with hairstyle.
How do you do with hair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
All I know is that I need a haircut bad.
Well, first of all, I guess what they do, they stop your breathing for a half an hour. Who knows? All it amounts to is that how they're going to allow these things to open up, and then back into bars and restaurants and stuff, which, I actually...
I don't see the bar thing opening.
How can they do that? Because how are you going to keep people 6 feet apart at a bar, especially if a husband and wife come in, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend, or two friends? I don't care who it is. You want to sit next to each other, commiserate. At a table, if the foursome, if the two couples go out to dinner, we're all going to sit at one table we're definitely...
Or a husband and a wife and a girlfriend.
That makes it more interesting. The key thing that how they're going to monitor, or I guess monitor is my best word that I can think of, these situations. And then if all of a sudden we have a rebound in infections, can you imagine what's going to happen the next go-around?
Well, as Alan was saying, the next flu season begins in October. So,
well, hey.
Well, also the head of the CDC is mincing no words. He said he is anticipating that next flu season might be worse because, excuse me, not only do we have the regular flu, but we've got the coronavirus unless they find something to stop it.
Well, my thing is if we're looking for this antidote, or this something we can take orally, or a shot or something that will ward off the chance of getting it, which should be like the flu. But I was like zinc lozenges and stuff. I've been doing that whenever I go on an airplane. Airborne or zinc.
Use those for years, yeah,
and that's been good. And you wonder, is there? And I understand that the medical profession, if it's not patented, the drug companies, they can't make any money on it. But it would just seem that this thing transcends if they can build up your immune system by taking something, and I don't care, what it might be. Anyway, we're all in the same boat, just trying to figure it out. 340-1590, 340-1590. Call us up. Hey, Russ, thanks for calling. It's Joe Martek. You're on the radio.
Yeah, I've noticed two things in the last week or so. I can barely listen to anything anymore. It's so frustrating. But they're trying to keep us in such an utter state of fear that now once you've got it, you can catch it again, which to me sounds like bunk. And the second round's going to be twice as bad. Which means everything we're doing right now is going to make that even worse. Every one of us should be dancing with those 97 people that have it, getting hot and sweaty with them, so we know we've covered it by the time it comes around again.
You remind me when we were kids, Mom used to expose us to mumps and measles and stuff so we could get it.
Right.
Remember that?
Measles parties.
Yeah.
Are you old enough to remember that?
Well,
I remember that in L.A. Yeah.
It was hey, let's get this over with.
Yeah.
So it's somehow or other.
That was a Catholic school thing too.
Well, hey, let's infect all those kids and get rid of some of them. Anyway, yeah, Russ, we're with you on that, because it just isn't fathoming how we can't find something to build the immune system. Already we know people with stronger immune systems are less susceptible. However, every once in a while we read or hear about somebody who was young, good-looking, healthy, and all that died. So, I don't...
Yeah, and I believe that, like I believe that the bridge in Brooklyn in New York City is for sale, too. You can make anything look like somebody's dying or whatever.
Isn't that the truth?
something.
Yeah, isn't that the truth?
It's no longer for sale. Trump bought it.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got it back for sale again. But it's in a trust, so he can't have the money. Anyway, hey, Russ, thanks for calling in, my man. Appreciate it.
Yep.
340-1590, 340-1590. It's a interesting time. Speaking of stock market, Alan, you've been following the stock market on a regular basis. I know you have, because you and I do that every day.
Yes, we do.
Market's up today.
Yes, it is up today, and it has been going up and down recently. It's
There's not a whole rhyme or reason.
It's not trending. It's sort of staying in a flat.
Well, we bottomed. It looks like
It's
last
a roller
month.
coaster.
We bottomed last month, and in theory, the stock market. We talk about this every week, but the stock market basically is 6 months to a year in advance, so it's anticipating what will happen. Now, oil tanking and being sold less than what it costs to bring it out of the ground is not helping the economy, because a lot of these oil companies support thousands and millions of people.
Yeah, can you imagine all the people in the Permian Basin
Oh man,
that are out of work now? I mean, it is
go tap
mega
that
thousands.
cap.
Yeah,
quit pumping. But guess what? When it rebounds, price it will probably be $10 a gallon for gas or something, because there's none available. Because when people start driving again, and airlines start going again, and cruise ships start going again, sucking it all up. But
It was interesting. I was watching our old station in L.A., and Standard Oil out in Southern California has been bringing in tankers from Arabia and from Saudi Arabia, and they are, anchoring those
Stacked
tankers
up, yeah.
off Long Beach Harbor.
Yeah.
And there are, right now, Standard has 20
Big
of
tanker.
those super tankers that are full of oil that are ready to go when.
I wonder
things
how
get
bad. Are
bad.
sitting out of New Orleans, and there's all kinds of different ports, that bring them in.
Houston, New Orleans,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
bet.
yeah.
It's amazing.
What's-
Philadelphia.
Well, the market currently, the Dow and Nasdaq are both up about 2% today.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing. One day up, one day down, one day up, one day down. And people talk to me constantly about, Joe, what do you think? And I said, well, look, I don't think America's going out of business. I have lived through many downturns. It seems like there's a 10-year cycle for recessions. This is, quote, a recession that is rapid and made because of a catastrophe that was not a nuclear holocaust or anything. This is a health-borne thing that should get cured at a reasonably fast pace, famous last words, and the market should recover. How fast, here we go again, is this a 6-month recovery, 3-month, 1 year, 2 year? Nobody knows.
How are the REITs doing?
Well, the REITs are interesting. There's different types of REITs, which some are in deep trouble. Which, if you're a shopping center REIT person, let's face it, you're in deep trouble today.
Oh, brother. Yeah.
Mortgage REITs hit a bottom in March, and they've come back. Some of them are up 40 and 50% from the low. Now, why? This is a difficult answer. The why is some of these companies are going to be bailed out by the government to help them get through this transition. Back again, if you're a mortgage company and you're not doing any mortgages, guess what happens? You slowly deteriorate. Look at title insurance companies are based on real estate. Well, if they're not doing any closings, guess what happens? They start letting people go.
All right, Joe. You've got shopping center REITs. Say.
Oh yeah.
Can somebody go in somewhere and say, move me into a different kind of REIT, or are you stuck there?
You can always sell it.
Sell it to what?
Well, no, but how can you?
Crazy to
now,
buy
what's the difference of moving? When you own stock,
Okay.
and that's what the REITs are. If they're publicly traded, which the only ones I've ever dealt with, I don't deal with ones that are not. Imagine ones that are not publicly traded. That means you can't find a buyer on a bet right now.
Right.
But it's publicly traded, but the price per share is down rapidly, tremendously. Now they've been paying dividends up and through a long period of time. The key is, are they going to continue to pay dividends? Well, if they're not making any money, the dividends will start to go down or be eliminated. There's talk about some of the REITs are going to, instead of paying a dividend, are going to give shares of stock to the company, so that when it comes back, the people will now have a better income because they own more shares. So the whole concept is this. Everything in the market is working 6 months to a year in advance, and all of this money that the government is printing, $1 trillion now, right, has got to help. It's real simple. It has to help. But in order to help, you also have to stop the bleeding at some point. We can't just have this coronavirus running rampant ad infinitum. Guess what happens then? This is I'll start growing my vegetables in the yard, and you got to grow different ones, and I'll swap mine for yours. I mean, nobody anticipates that ever happening.
Everybody has their own risk tolerance, but at times like these, though, you sometimes have to look at common sense. If you believe that oil is going to be around 10 years from now, let's just take an example.
AOC doesn't.
Exxon is currently trading just under $43 a share, with an 8.25% dividend.
Right.
Woo!
What they're saying is, though, they think the dividends will be paid for the next quarter. But if the situation doesn't turn around, I don't care which company it is, they can suck up all of their reserves, and at some point they can't. Let me give you another thing. Today, people are calling me up, quite a few people. Joe, this is bargain time. Everybody says I should buy something. What do you think I should buy? I said, well, where I've been leaning heavily lately is in the airlines. I can't imagine that the airlines have to be put out of business. What happens to the world transportation system if there's no airlines?
AOC wins.
AOC wins. Everybody has to walk. But the key is this. Delta, American, United, Southwest, some of the big carriers, it's bargain time. Some of them are down from their high of 100 down to 25.
We just had Southwest send me an email, $49 to anywhere.
Yeah. The key thing
in the continental U.S., not to Hawaii. But
what is going to happen is these airlines will come back also, as the cruise lines. I got people wanting to buy cruise lines. Hey, same thing. It's bargain time. So I've put every dime I've got in. I don't have any money left to put in. I fully believe in America. I fully believe this thing will get taken care of. How long is the magic word? So people that I know that are somewhat risk takers are dumping in money like crazy right now. Bargain time. Remember back when the Great Recession hit and the government did not bail out Ford Motor Company?
Right.
And I had clients, including myself, that bought Ford under $2 a share. Well, it got up to 18. Now that's called not only a home run, that's called a grand slam. So will that happen again? Probably. But which companies? So today I'm kind of leaning on airlines and the cruise lines, thinking that these are going to make a big turn.
Pat is with us on the line. Pat, go ahead. You're on with Joe.
Hey, Pat.
All right.
Yeah,
I got two questions because I know you guys are good thinkers.
Uh-oh. Careful now.
First question is, I saw some information came out with the Vindman guy. It looks like he's quite a corrupt Benedict Arnold. So I'm going to predict, I was wondering what you would predict, that Pelosi stepped over the line and she handpicked Shifty Schiff with the eyeballs. And I think they're going to both end up paying the price.
Well, first I vote for you. I mean,
Judas Prudence. Judas Prudence. I think that they're forgetting. They think we live in China and a totalitarian regime. And one of the things that protects us from that, because we know these people are like that they're just trying to be real fascist people.
Well,
so the power has definitely intoxicated them tremendously. So I want to hear what you say about that, and then I have another quick question, if we got time. Just
go ahead.
A quick one. The other quick question is, if you were trying to protect money, say from something where somebody was trying to get money from you, or what would you put it into, like, as far as like a security thing? I know like a CD would protect you, as far as getting that 1.25%, whatever they're giving, depending on 6 months or a year. But something like where somebody by law wouldn't be able to take the money.
Hey, it's a real simple answer. You ready? One, retirement accounts, whether it's an IRA or whatever, they're exempt from attachment by creditors. So if you have a retirement account, 401k, 403b, IRA. Also, annuity contracts. Any annuity with an insurance company is not susceptible to attachment by creditors. There's a whole bunch of people that are in high-risk occupations that put their money into annuities, one, to get a decent return, and then two, in case they get sued, it can't be taken away from them. Now, with all that said and done, let's say you know you're going to get sued next week and you buy an annuity today. The odds are good the judge is going to say, nope, can't do that because you knew ahead of time. So their intent has to be, you did this like 6 months ago and you get sued now, you didn't know you're going to get sued. So that money is protected. So retirement accounts are protected and annuities are protected. Got it?
Yeah, that's excellent. Then are they protected like from somebody who might, renege on a contract or something where somebody might change their mind?
Here comes the rule. It's protected from lawsuits, period. So if you get sued, let's say you had a car accident and you got a $100,000 liability policy and you get sued for $1 million, the insurance company pays the $100,000, you have a judgment on you for $900,000, but they can't take your retirement account away and they can't take your annuity contracts away. O.J. Simpson gets $25,000 a month from an NFL retirement annuity. They can't touch that $25,000. So the whole concept of is there are ways to protect money in case of. Retirement accounts are one, annuities are two. Nothing else does it except, here we go, an irrevocable trust. Irrevocable means you don't own the money anymore. You put it into a trust and it's controlled by somebody else, not you, even though it was your money. But that's called, you just gave away your money to somebody else. But I'm paraphrasing. It's not exactly. If I had Greg Facility here right now, he'd be grimacing a bit on it because he'd want to add more words. But the reality is this. Understand, lawsuits are protected. You are protected from lawsuits if you have money in a retirement account, IRA, your Social Security, and annuity contracts.
Excellent. Now, if O.J. Simpson would have been found guilty, it kind of seemed like he was with so much blood there. So much blood on the scene. I mean, how do we know he did it? There was juice everywhere. But if he would have been convicted, would that money have still been protected, or what would have happened to it at that point?
No, that's his money.
That's his. They can't. Now, here's what happens. If he puts that money in the bank and makes 1% on it, that 1% they can take. But they can't take that retirement income away from him.
That is something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all part of the NFLPA, the Players Association pension.
Pat, listen, because you're in the mafia, you should have most of your money invested in annuities.
Now, I don't know where annuity falls into it, because when you have an annuity, you're not in the market. So how does that?
No, you can be. There's a fixed annuity that pays interest, and there's also a variable annuity that you're in the market. So you got two different ways. One account you can be in the market, the other one you can be just a fixed interest rate.
I gotcha. Wow.
All right, my man. Let me get one more phone call we need to get before the show's over, but thanks a lot for calling in, and call in next week. We can talk more about this. All right, Mike, Joe Martek, you're on the radio. Hey, Mike.
Hey.
What's happening, guy?
I'm doing my part for policy compliance. I now have a mask in my car, but what folks don't know, when I put it on, I've worn it at least 20, 25 times. So,
hey, listen, Mike, you're supposed to wash it occasionally.
And yesterday at Publix, I discovered that all the aisles are one way.
No kidding.
Isn't that
something? That's a new rule, huh? I kind of like it.
Keep people from getting too close to each other. I'm finding people are getting even more squirmy and cautious and actually more apprehensive about being around each other. I hope this doesn't become a permanent feature in people's mindset.
Well, for a while, it's going to be a wind up, wind down. It'll last for a period of time that people will. But, I don't care what happens. Over a period of time, people forget, and that's just the way life works. But, hey, right today, I'm not going to say it's entertainment value. Thank you, Lord. I'm not one of those that's gotten sick or got it. But for those that do, hey, I understand the premise of trying to stay away. Mike, listen, thank you for calling in, my man. I really appreciate it, but we're running out of time. Our producer turned down our final music, so that means I'm supposed to be quiet.
Well, have a good week now.
Thank you, my man. 340-1590, and until next week, am I supposed to say goodbye?
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Oh, now I have to answer 30 seconds. Come on, Joe. Oh.
Am I supposed to talk some more? I thought you said I was done.
You've been listening to the Team Martek Hour. The Team Martek Hour is a paid program. The content was provided by the advertiser. WPSL, its staff, management, and ownership were not responsible for its content. Investment involves risk. Prior to making any investment, an investor should meet suitability requirements. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future performance. Neither the opinions expressed nor the information provided constitutes a recommendation to purchase or provide investment advice. The material presented is not a substitute for obtaining professional advice from a qualified person or firm. Securities offered through Centaurus Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Tune in again next Wednesday at 11:05 for the Team Martek Hour here on WPSL 1590.
WPSL, Port St. Lucie.